So we're gonna do a little yin yoga for the hips today. So you will need 2 blocks if you have them. If you don't have any blocks, you're welcome to use bigger books. You can use a bolster or something more sturdy if you have it. But I would encourage you to have something to feel a little bit deeper into the poses that we are going to do today. We're going to be focusing on the hips, showing the hips a little love, maybe have a little tightness, a little tension, looking a little bit for some opening there, bringing a little bit more blood flow and getting a little bit deeper into the connective tissues in our body and not just our muscles. So it's a little bit different from if you've taken a vinyasa or a flow class where you might not be holding the poses as long. We'll be holding the poses a little bit longer today, and then finding a little bit of wiggle between each stretch, each pose. So our theme is I am creative, and I'd just like you to bring your hands to the knee, set up nice and tall in the pelvis. If you do have a block, you can go ahead and sit up. Just bring the pelvis up just a little bit so that you feel a little bit more neutral in sitting and not. It naturally brings the spine a little taller. And then just sit up on your block and let's just go ahead and connect with our breath first. So bringing the hands to the knees, sitting up nice and tall in the spine. Maybe you close the eyes. Maybe you just connect with the breath for just a moment. Just noticing the rise and the fall of the breath, the inhalations through the nose and the exhalations through the mouth. Noticing how fast or slow the breath might be. And working towards drawing out the exhalations. So maybe you want to inhale for a count of 4 and exhale for a count of 6. Every inhale in through the nose, and every exhale, just let it go. Or maybe you're working towards Ujjayi breathing. Breathing in through the nose, sealing the lips, letting the tongue relax, and just breathing back out through the nose. Roll the shoulders back a little slightly. Sit up tall in the spine. Soften the eyes, soften the forehead. And just be here in this moment with the breath. Focusing on every inhale and every exhale. Every inhale, the rise of the belly and the chest. And every exhale, just finding that release. Stay here for a couple more breaths. And maybe you come back to that theme or take it as a mantra. I am creative. And maybe you just breathe that in and see what that feels like for you in the mind. So breathing in, I am creative. And maybe with your exhale, you sit with that. And then rolling through each breath with that mantra, I am creative. One more time, inhale, I am creative. And exhale. And keep the eyes closed, or if you'd like, you can open the eyes slightly. Roll the shoulders back. Just give the shoulders a little roll, maybe on the right, maybe on the left. We'll just take a quick side stretch here. Right hand comes to the mat, left hand reaches across. Exhale, keeping the hips firmly planted and rooted to the mat. Inhale all the way back up and over. Inhaling through center. Exhale as you reach that right hand across. Keeping that pelvis on the block or on the mat. And inhale back up to center. Bring the fingers back behind you. Tend to the fingers. Just open up the chest. Maybe you rock the head from side to side. Okay. All right, let's remove the block. And first we're going to come into a forward fold. Okay, so you will only need, well, you can decide. I'm going to use one block for this. Maybe two. So you're going to, and just make it your own. You know, you can decide what feels best in your own body. I'm going to bring my legs out nice and long, okay? A nice neutral position. And then maybe pull the flesh of the hips back just a little bit. So you're sitting up nice and tall in the spine. We're going to be forward folding and holding our forehead on the block. So you're going to maybe bring the other block to any level, play around with it. You know, I want you to get situated and comfortable in the pose before you sit there. So taking your blocks to whatever feels nice for you. Go ahead and inhale, lift the arms. You're going to bring the belly towards the hips, towards the thighs, okay? And then just let the hands fall wherever they meet, dropping the forehead to your block. And maybe this feels nice for you. Maybe this is a good place to stay, or maybe it's too tall. Maybe you want to take it a little bit lower. You find out what works for you. And we're going to stay here for a couple breaths. Making sure to stay with that inhale through the nose. And exhale. Maybe you're taking it into that Ujjayi breath. Or maybe you're just finding a release through the mouth. Maybe working towards that count of 4 inhales, and then working to an exhale of 6, and then just staying with that. Taking a couple more inhales and exhales. Staying with the breath. Take one more inhale and exhale. And then we're going to rise up out of the pose. Remove your block. place them to the sides of the mat. And just go ahead, shake out the legs, bend the knees. Find a little stretch back and forth. Just finding that nice wiggle after we hold that stretch, letting that blood flow. And then we're going to come into a butterfly pose. So what you're going to do is you're going to slide your hips forward, and I'm going to turn to face you so you can see me. You're going to bring the soles of the feet together, and you're going to interlace the fingers in between the hands. Place them under the feet. Now you have a couple options here for holding this pose. You can either bring the elbows to the knees and hold, letting the head dangle, or you are welcome to take your blocks to whatever level you need for a rest for the forehead. Just working towards whatever fits your needs today. And then holding butterfly. So coming into the pose. Take a big inhale, find your center. And then exhale, dropping the head down. Staying with the breath. Using the breath. Every inhale brings some energy, brings that new breath, sending it to those areas of tightness. And every exhale finds you a release, finds you a little bit deeper into the pose. As you sink into this pose, stay here, you'll find that your body starts to open up just a little bit deeper. And really imagining sending the breath to those areas that feel tight. And just noticing the areas, sending the breath there, but not judging them. And then when you're ready, coming back up, we're going to go into a little half butterfly release twist. That's what I like to call it. So you're going to just extend the left leg, find that release, bring the right in, just twist around, gaze back behind you, grabbing the left hand to the right knee, sitting up tall in the spine, and then just release, open out your right leg this time. Right hand comes to left knee, find that little twist. Open up the other direction. Gaze behind you. Maybe gaze over the shoulder. And then just release. And then we're going to come into a child's pose. So I want you to come back on the knees. Once again, option to use the block or not. You can place a block under the forehead for child's pose, under the hips, whatever you need to do. Maybe you want to create a space where it's a little bit more supported. Or maybe you want to bring the block under the forehead. Whatever feels good for you. Lots of options. We're going to sink into that child's pose. Forehead comes to the mat, fingers are nice and extended out, knees are under the belly, and maybe you take that wider if you need to create the space needed for your body there. Bringing the knees out to the sides of the mat if needed. And just sitting the hips back, breathing into that back body. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth maybe. And working towards that place of stillness, maybe that Ujjayi breath. Really letting go in this pose. Not tensing up, just releasing. Every breath draws you a little closer to the mat, to the earth. Finding that connection to the stability below us. Staying with that theme of I am creative. Maybe you want to take that mantra one more time or throughout the sequence. Go ahead and lift the forehead up. Bring the hands back. Come up into a little bit of a tabletop position and just sway the hips side to side. Maybe you want to round in the hips. Just find any organic movement that feels nice to you here. Maybe you want to sink to the right and hold it for a minute. Maybe you want to sink to the other side and hold it. Maybe you want to come forward, take a little bit of a cat, and then come back. Sorry, sink up and take a little bit of a cow position. And then sink back, breathe into the back body, a little wiggle there. From child's pose, we're just going to sink down to the belly. So forearms come to the mat. Step the feet back. Find the belly. We're going to come into a Sphinx pose. So find your positioning on your mat that feels good. Think about stocking those joints, so your elbow underneath the shoulder joint, and the hands are just the same distance as your elbows, your shoulders. And then just look up ahead of you, find something to gaze at. Find that Sphinx Pose stretch. Holding it here for a couple minutes. Make sure to sit high and tall. You're not slouching into the shoulders. Sitting up nice and strong. Maybe you're thinking about the creativity inside of you. Pondering on that, what it looks like for you on the mat or off the mat. Maybe you even want to close the eyes. Imagine what that looks like for you. Staying with that breath, that inhale for 4, and exhale for 6. Or maybe you're taking it deeper, maybe you're taking it all the way to 6 on an inhale and all the way to 8 on an exhale. Drawing out that exhale. Doing a great job. We're almost there. Go ahead, release the head down. Bring the hands to the elbows. Maybe the forehead comes to the forearms, and just rock, gently rock the hips back and forth on the mat. Find a little wiggle. Maybe you even want to sway the legs from side to side. Find that little rebound, that little release. Let the blood flow. Bring the toes back under. We're going to go ahead, sit up. Come back into that tabletop position. From here, we're going to go into our lizard lunge. So you are going to need a couple blocks or a block, however you choose. You take one block facing down and think about the levels of the block and what might work for you, or you can have 2 blocks. I'll show you both ways. So before you do that, you're going to come into a plank pose. Bring the right foot forward to the hand. And I want you to just go ahead and drop the back knee. I want you to untuck the toe. I want you to go ahead and walk your right foot over and bring it to a 45 degree. So pivot that foot out so it's pointed to the side of the mat. And then go ahead and you can drop to any level on you can take your forearms all the way down to the mat. You can bring them to the blocks. You can even stay up on the hands if you don't have blocks. Just make it your own. Whatever feels good for you. Maybe play around with it for a moment, and then we'll get started. Drop the head, let the head release. Maybe you even want to close the eyes. Come back to the breath. Every inhale, breathing in that energy, breathing in that life force. And imagine sending that breath to that area that's needed. Just visualize that. What would that look like? Trying to stay nice and stable on both shoulder joints. Not sinking into the left side. And also not drooping in the shoulders. Still maintaining that strength. Letting that energy flow. Trying to hold the pose as long as your body allows you. Those 3 minutes. Deep breathing, knowing if there's any pain or any sensations that don't feel good. Listen to your body. Come out of the pose if you need to. But knowing that sensation is good, so looking for a good sensation. Couple more breaths. And then when you're ready, go ahead and press up into the blocks or into the mat. Scoop them, slide them out of the way for a moment. Walk the foot back in. And then just sink back into your little version of half splits. Maybe you rock it forward, find a little blood flow there, a little release, a little rebound. Maybe you find a little wiggle in it. Bring that foot back. Sit up tall. And then just take your hands to the lower back. Like a little opening here. Pressing gently onto the lower back. Engaging in the core, engaging in the glutes here. And then just release. We're going to walk it back out into the other side. So this time, coming back into, go ahead and bring your blocks closer to you. You should get set if you used them. Getting them positioned nicely. Coming into that plank pose first, nice strong plank. And then bring that left foot up to the top of the mat, equal to the hand. Maybe even a little forward if you have that space or the availability in your body. Drop the knee, untuck the toe, walk that foot or open that foot out. Let me move the block so you can see. So we're just pivoting that foot out to a 45-degree angle. And then once again, coming back, finding the balance on both sides. Lizard lunge. Here we go. 3 minutes. Breathing deep. Maybe you're noticing the difference from one side to the other. Just being aware, not judging. Finding that strength in the shoulders, keeping them nice and square. Not sinking into the right side, or the right elbow, or the right shoulder. Staying stable. Breathing into the pose. Taking a couple more breaths. And then when you're ready, pressing up into the blocks or to the mat. Slide the blocks forward, out of the way. Go ahead and sink into your little version of the half split. Find that little stretch. Wiggle back and forth. Hands come to the mat. And then just bring that foot back behind you, coming into a little camel version, baby back bend. Hands come to back of the lower back. And just engage in the core, engage in the glutes. Sink it back. And rock it forward. Maybe sink it back one more time. And then coming forward, this time we'll go into a pigeon pose. So hands come to the top of the mat. You could find your plank one more time. And then just bring that right knee all the way up. Draw it all the way up to the right hand. Go ahead and drop. Extend that back leg out. Toe is pointed towards the back of the mat. Now, listen to your body here. Maybe you need a block underneath the hip, back in the back, or maybe you want a block in front of you. Maybe you even want to take the leg out a little bit more. You have that flexibility. You can create that space, or maybe draw it a little closer. And we're
we're just going to bring the forearms to the mat or to a block and sink into this pigeon pose. Breathing in, connecting back with the breath. Close the eyes maybe if you feel like it. Let the head just drop. You can even bring your forehead to the mat, coming all the way down into a swan position. Taking a couple more breaths. Full cycles of breath. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. And then when you're ready, go ahead and push up. We're just going to kind of rebound into a frog pose. So bring that foot back. Lay down on the belly. Bring your leg out. Maybe you want to tee the arms, cactus the arms. And just breathe here for a moment. Go ahead and press back up into the mat. Bring the legs back behind you. Take a little baby cobra. Maybe look to the right. Maybe look to the left. Engage in the glutes. And then press back. Sink back into a little bit of a puppy pose. And then we're going to take the other side. So you can come up into that plank first if that's easier. And then drawing that left knee to the left elbow. And then just lay it down. So you have a bent knee, flexion in that leg, extension in the back leg. The toe is pointed out to the back of the mat.
And then once again, make this your own and thinking about balancing from one side to the other. So if you used a block on the other side, I would encourage you to use a block on this side. Once again, that looks like this, where you're placing the block underneath the hips. If you need that space, maybe you're coming up, maybe you want to stay up. Or maybe you're sinking all the way down, forehead to the mat. Find the pose, find the way that the pose works best for you. And we'll stay there for 3 minutes. And just dropping the head. Maybe the forehead's already to the mat. Breathing into that space. Allowing that deeper exhale where we tap into our relaxed nervous system, our parasympathetic nervous system, and we really find that opening. Our bodies relax. And it allows us to create that space. Maybe you're coming back to that mantra, I am creative. And just repeating that in your mind, I am creative. Taking a couple more breaths. Big inhale through the nose. Exhale, let it all go. One more time. Inhale through the nose. Breathe into the back body. And exhale, let it go. Go ahead and push up. With the hands, slide that leg back. Come down to the belly. Find that little frog position. Open leg frog, breathing frog, whatever you want to call it. Maybe you cactus the arms. Maybe you look you can even look the opposite direction or the same direction as the knee. That is flexed. Just breathe here for a couple deep breaths. And then just go ahead and extend that leg back out. Press into that little baby cobra. Engage in the glutes here. Maybe you inhale, look to the right. And then exhale, look to the left. And go ahead and sit all the way back up. Sink back into your version of a puppy pose for a moment. Stretch the hands out. Maybe you want to wiggle from back and forth. And then we're going to
walk the knees forward.
And we're gonna go into a half hero pose. So you may need a block for this one, depending on your level of flexibility, the space that you can create here. So you're gonna just extend, we're gonna extend the left leg out. We're sitting under the right, and just take that ankle to the side. Now, if you want to bring some blocks back behind you, you can either sink and find the position, find what works well for you. And we're gonna sink back into that pose. Maybe you take the blocks higher. Maybe you don't have blocks at all. Just listen to your body. Really feeling the stretch in the top of our quadricep. And also in our ankle, our foot. Maybe you feel it somewhere else too. And just coming back to the breath, staying here for our 3 minutes. Not sinking into this, let's not sink into this. Let's stay nice and tall. I suppose if you wanted to take it further, you're welcome to go all the way to the floor if that is available to you. Coming back to that mantra, I am creative. And just going with the opening that we're creating here in the body and thinking about opening the mind to the creativity that's within us. Take a couple more breaths. And we're just going to extend that leg out. Bring the foot to the inner thigh. Go ahead and press the blocks out to the sides, out of the way. We're going to just drop into a little reclined tree here. Back comes to the mat. I'm just breathing here for a moment. Feel that opening through the hips. One more breath. Maybe you just want to find a little mobility there. And then just go ahead, sit up tall. We'll take it to the other side. So bringing those blocks back. On the other side, we'll bend the knee, extend the right leg this time. And knowing you don't have to come as far, you can always take this higher by changing the blocks, taking it higher. If it's not available in your body today, working towards a balance on both sides once again.
Staying with the breath. And a couple more breaths. And then when you're ready, go ahead and sit up. Bring and extend that leg out. Maybe even want to shake out the legs for a moment. And then we'll come down, bend the left knee, bring it to the inner thigh, sink back onto the back, take that reclined tree. You can even cactus the arms here. Maybe you want to look from side to side with the head, stretching the neck. Maybe you want to stay on one side. Stay here for a couple breaths. And then we'll go ahead, maybe find some mobility. Make a little circle on the ceiling with the knee. Maybe you want to hug it into the chest. And on our backs, we'll do our last, we've got a couple more poses. We're going to go into twister pose. So bringing the knees to the chest. Now, taking this to your level of depth. First of all, let's move our blocks. We won't need you could use your blocks for this one, so I'll show you, but we're going to be on our backs, and we're going to take our right knee over our left knee. Now, go ahead and slide that leg up as far as you can. Now, if it's available, you can twist the foot around the other leg, underneath the the calf. Or you can just go ahead and keep them crossed like this. So whatever is available to you. And then we're just going to draw the right knee all the way over towards the left. And let the hips fall naturally. And then extend the right arm out. Maybe your hand stays on the top of the knee. Knowing that if your hips come up a lot, that's okay. We're going to breathe. We're going to stay here. We're going to sink into this pose, and I promise you, after a couple minutes, it will feel differently. So working towards your shoulder on the mat. Ooh. Extending that hand out. Breathing into the pose. Draw out the exhale. You can close the eyes if you want, focusing on the breath. Maybe you're starting to notice the body as it relaxes, and it's going to look different for each one of us. Sometimes it takes us a little longer, and sometimes we're already there, and everybody's body is so different. But as we relax our minds, as we relax our bodies, we will sink into the poses. Our bodies are able to. Take one more deep breath. And then just go ahead, bring the knees to the chest. Give a little hug to the knees. Drop the feet out in front of you. And then just sway the legs back and forth. Just sway them back and forth a couple more times. And then we're going to go ahead and work to the other side. So this time the left knee crosses the right knee, and then whether or not you just dropped it from there or you found that twist, and notice the difference. One side might be tighter than the other. So I didn't show on the other side, but you're welcome to take a block under the legs if that helps you to get that shoulder to the mat. But see if throughout the pose you can move it away as you sink deeper into that pose. And then staying here for a couple breaths. Maybe you want to gaze towards the hand that's outstretched, away from the knees. Or maybe your head wants to stay neutral. Starting to maybe feel the difference in the pose. Maybe the shoulders meeting the floor now, maybe the knees are meeting the floor now. Maybe they're not, and that's okay. Giving our bodies the space also needed as we give the time needed. Journey, it's a practice, and sometimes it takes time. Just like as we hold these poses, it takes time. Take a couple more breaths. And when you're ready, we're just going to gently rock the legs back in. Give the knees a little squeeze. Maybe massage the spine out a little bit. Draw circles on the ceiling with the knees. Drop the feet to the floor and just gently rock side to side. Working towards our Shavasana, the most important pose. The pose of stillness and rest for the mind. Go ahead and bring your feet out to the width of the mat. And then just go ahead and extend out the arms away from the body. Maybe we have our hands and our palms open into a receiving state, an opening state. Just imagining and visualizing that creativity, that fluidity, that flow, that energy that we've just sent through our body. Coming back to our mantra, I am creative. Coming back to the breath. Inhale through the nose, maybe exhale and audibly open. Listen to the breath. We'll stay here for a few minutes. Maybe you even want to bring the hands to the belly so you can notice the rise and the fall of the breath. Focusing on that inhale through the nose. Exhale. Noticing a gentle heaviness, a beautiful heaviness as we are connected to that stability, that ground below us. Staying here, staying with the breath. Coming back to the mantra, I am creative. Maybe breathing in through the nose and sending the breath to the hips. And maybe all the way down to the toes. And then as you inhale, maybe it comes from the toes all the way back up to the crown of the head. And then all the way back down to the hips. I release the old and welcome the new. I embrace my own fluidity, whatever that might look like for me, without resistance, without restraint. I am creative. And while there is resistance in life, we can push through that and become stronger. Can find that opening, find that fluidity, that energy flowing through us. And embrace it. Embrace the hard. Embrace it and let it work within you. And knowing it looks different for every one of us. I'm just deciding now how that looks for you, what it means to you. I'm just taking a couple more inhales and exhales. Maybe listening to the breath. And then as you're ready, go ahead and push up into the side of the mat. Bring yourself up into a seated position. I thank you for practicing with me today in this hip opening yen sequence and wishing you well. Namaste.